Clara sat cross-legged on her couch, scrolling through her phone while sipping lukewarm tea. Her small apartment was dimly lit by a single bedside lamp, casting long shadows across the walls. Outside, rain pattered against the window pane, muffling the distant hum of traffic. She loved nights like these, peaceful, predictable, hers alone. And then it happened. A faint whisper crackled through the silence, so soft she almost missed it. At first, Clara thought it was the wind or maybe static from her TV left on standby. But as she froze mid-scroll, the sound came again, this time clearer. "I know where you are." Her heart skipped a beat. The voice wasn't her own, nor anyone familiar. It was low, distorted, and chillingly deliberate. It didn't come from outside, it came from inside her apartment. From somewhere close, she glanced around nervously, her pulse quickening. Was someone hiding? No, that was impossible. She lived. Alone, shaking off the unease, she told herself it must have been her imagination playing tricks. Still, the hair on her arms stood up, refusing to settle. Then her phone buzzed. Clara stared at it, dread pooling in her stomach. The screen displayed an unknown number. Trembling fingers unlocked the device, revealing a text message. "I'm watching you." That was when the whispers returned, louder this time, emanating from the very phone in her hand. For the next hour, Clara frantically searched every corner of her apartment. She unplugged all electronics, checked under the bed, peered into closets, and even crawled beneath the kitchen sink. Nothing seemed out of place, yet the feeling of being watched lingered like a suffocating fog. Finally, exhausted and trembling, she collapsed onto her couch, clutching a kitchen knife for comfort. Her mind raced with possibilities. Could it be a prank? A tech glitch? Or worse, something far more sinister? Unable to shake the paranoia, Clara decided to investigate further. Early the next morning, after a sleepless night, she opened her laptop and began scouring online forums about hacking and surveillance. What she found chilled her to the bone. Hidden cameras, spyware apps, stalkers who installed devices without their victims ever knowing. Suddenly, her apartment felt less like a sanctuary and more like a prison. Every shadow seemed menacing, every creak ominous. Determined to uncover the truth, Clara purchased a cheap radio frequency detector and swept her home inch by inch. At first, nothing triggered the device. But when she reached the living room bookshelf, a piece of furniture she'd owned for years, the detector emitted a high-pitched squeal. With shaking hands, Clara removed the books one by one until she found it. A tiny black camera nestled behind a fake spine. Someone had been watching her, recording her. For how long, she couldn't say. Tears welled in her eyes as nausea clawed at her throat. Who could do this to her? And why? Instinctively, Clara's thoughts turned to her ex-boyfriend, Evan. Their breakup 6 months ago had been messy, to say the least. He'd accused her of cheating, though she swore she hadn't. In the weeks following their split, he'd bombarded her with obsessive texts and calls, begging her to take him back. When she refused, he'd grown aggressive, showing up uninvited at her workplace and accusing her of ruining his life. Eventually, she'd filed a restraining order, and he'd backed off, or so she'd thought. Could Evan be behind this? It made sense. His behavior during their relationship had often bordered on possessive, and his anger post-breakup only confirmed her suspicions. But as Clara dug deeper, inconsistencies began to surface. For starters, Evan had moved to another city shortly after the restraining order was issued. How could he possibly monitor her from hundreds of miles away? Determined to get answers, Clara messaged a mutual friend, hoping for insight into Evan's recent activities. The response came quickly but offered little reassurance. Haven't heard from him in weeks. Honestly, I think he might have ghosted everyone. If Evan wasn't responsible, then who was? Over the next few days, Clara's mental state deteriorated. Rapidly, paranoia consumed her, turning mundane tasks into Herculean challenges. Simple actions like answering the door or checking her mail filled her with dread. She stopped leaving the house altogether, convinced that stepping outside would make her vulnerable. Her friends noticed the change. Calls went unanswered, texts were ignored, and invitations declined. Concerned, her best friend Nina showed up unannounced one evening, banging on the door until Clara reluctantly let her in. "What's going on with you?" Nina demanded, taking in the disarray of Clara's once pristine apartment. Empty coffee mugs littered the countertops, curtains were drawn shut, and the air smelled stale. Clara hesitated before breaking down. Through tears, she confessed everything: the hidden camera, the texts, the whispers. Nina listened silently, her expression shifting from shock to anger. "We need to go to the police," Nina said firmly. "No," Clara snapped, surprising even herself. "They won't believe me. They'll think I'm crazy or overreacting. Besides," she trailed off, glancing at the camera sitting on the table. "What if they're involved too?" Nina sighed, unable to argue. Instead, she promised to stay with Clara for a few days, hoping her presence might offer some comfort. 2 nights later, Nina and Clara were watching TV when the power suddenly cut out. Darkness engulfed the apartment, broken only by the glow of their phones. "Great timing," Nina muttered, fumbling for the flashlight app. But Clara wasn't listening. Her gaze was fixed on the bookshelf where she'd found the camera. Something felt off. Against Nina's protests, Clara retrieved the flashlight and approached the shelf. As she shone the beam into its recesses, her breath hitched. The camera was gone. Panic surged through her veins. Whoever had planted it knew she'd discovered it, and now they were one step ahead. Before she could process what this meant, a sudden noise startled them both. It came from Clara's bedroom. Heart pounding, Clara crept toward the source, Nina trailing nervously behind her. When they entered the room, the sight made Clara's blood run cold. On her pillow lay a crumpled note, written in jagged handwriting. "You're not the only one I'm watching." As Clara stared at the note, her phone vibrated in her pocket. With trembling hands, she pulled it out and saw an incoming video call from an unknown number. Against her better judgment, she answered. The screen flickered to life, revealing a grainy image of a woman screaming for help. Her face was contorted in terror, her mouth open in a silent cry. Behind her loomed a shadowy figure, its outline indistinct yet undeniably menacing. Then, just as abruptly as it started, the feed cut off. Clara dropped the phone, her knees buckling beneath her. "Who was that?" Nina whispered, her voice barely audible. Clara shook her head, tears streaming down her face. "I don't know," she choked out, "but I think we're in serious trouble." Evelyn had always prided herself on being in control. Her meticulously organized planner was color-coded to perfection. Her career as a corporate lawyer demanded precision, and her personal life, though quieter than she'd like, was stable. But stability has a way of crumbling when you least expect it. It started with small things that Evelyn dismissed as coincidences. A misplaced pen at work, a file left open on her desk overnight despite locking her office door. And then there were the whispers, soft murmurs coming from her car radio late at night, just static laced enough to sound accidental but deliberate. Enough to unsettle her. "Stay away," the voice hissed one evening as she drove home. Evelyn slammed the brakes, her heart racing. She glanced around, half expecting someone to be lurking in her back seat. But the car was empty, shaking off the unease. She convinced herself it was just fatigue playing tricks on her mind. After all, she'd been working long hours lately. Who wouldn't feel jumpy under those circumstances? She didn't realize how wrong she was until the graffiti appeared. The warning, Evelyn woke up the next morning to find her front door smeared with red paint. At first glance, it looked like vandalism, a random act of mischief by neighborhood kids. But as she stepped closer, her blood ran cold. The words scrawled across her door weren't random at all. "The watcher is closer than you think. Her Hands trembled as she wiped away the paint with trembling fingers. Whoever had done this knew her routine, knew where she lived, and they weren't afraid to make their presence known. Determined not to let fear take hold, Evelyn filed a report with the local authorities. But the officer who arrived seemed dismissive, chalking it up to a prank. Probably teenagers. He said, shrugging, "I'll send a patrol car around tonight, but try not to worry too much." Evelyn nodded politely, though anger simmered beneath her calm exterior. Teenagers? This wasn't some juvenile stunt. It felt calculated, personal, and it wasn't over. Later that day, Evelyn received an email from an unknown sender. Attached was a series of photos of her, walking to work, sitting at a cafe, even standing in her kitchen, pouring coffee. Each image bore a timestamp, proving beyond doubt that someone had been following her for weeks. Panic set in as Evelyn scrolled through the images. Among them was a screenshot of a private conversation between her and her colleague, Grace. They'd discussed sensitive case details during lunch, unaware they were being recorded. Grace. Could she be involved? No, Evelyn thought immediately. Grace had been her closest ally at the firm since she joined. She trusted her implicitly. Still, doubt gnawed at the edges of her mind. Grace had access to Evelyn's schedule, knew her routines, unable to confront her directly. Without evidence, Evelyn decided to investigate discreetly. She searched Grace's shared folders on the company server and discovered something alarming. A hidden folder labeled Observations. Inside were audio clips and transcripts, not just of Evelyn's conversations, but of others as well. One name caught her eye. Clara. Evelyn remembered Clara vaguely. They'd met once at a mutual friend's party. Clara had seemed kind but guarded, keeping mostly to herself. What could possibly connect them? Driven by curiosity and growing fear, Evelyn reached out to Clara via social media. To her surprise, Clara responded almost instantly. "Did you get weird messages too?" Clara asked in her reply. Over the course of several frantic exchanges, Evelyn learned about Clara's ordeal, the hidden camera, the texts, the video call showing another victim screaming for help. It was surreal, hearing her own nightmare reflected in someone else's story. "We need to meet," Evelyn typed, her resolve hardening. "This isn't random. Someone's targeting us both." They agreed to meet at a quiet cafe downtown later. That evening. When Evelyn arrived at the cafe, Clara was already seated, looking pale and anxious. Evelyn slid into the booth across from her, placing a manila envelope on the table. "I found these," she said, pushing the envelope toward Clara. Inside were printed copies of the photos and transcript sheet, uncovered in Grace's folder. Clara's eyes widened as she flipped through the documents. "This is insane," she whispered. "Why would anyone do this?" Before Evelyn could respond, her phone buzzed. It was a text from Grace. "We need to talk. Urgent." Evelyn hesitated, glancing at Clara. "Something's wrong," she muttered. Against Clara's protests, Evelyn decided to meet Grace alone. She needed answers, and if Grace was innocent, she deserved a chance to explain herself. The meeting took place in an empty conference room at the firm. Grace looked visibly shaken, clutching a stack of papers in trembling hands. "You've got to listen to me," Grace began, tears streaming down her face. "I didn't mean for any of this to happen. I thought I was helping." "Helping? Who?" Evelyn demanded, her voice sharp. Grace hesitated before answering. "Someone contacted me months ago. Said they wanted information about certain employees, nothing illegal, just patterns, habits. I thought it was harmless, but now..." She trailed off, handing Evelyn the papers. Evelyn scanned the documents. They contained detailed profiles of multiple individuals, including Clara and herself. Beneath each profile was a single sentence, marked, "For observation." Evelyn returned to the cafe, her mind reeling. Clara listened silently as Evelyn recounted everything Grace had told her. "What does it mean?" Clara asked finally. "Who's behind this?" Evelyn shook her head, frustration bubbling over. "I don't know, but we're not safe. Not here, not anywhere." For the first time in years, Evelyn felt utterly powerless. Her carefully constructed world was unraveling before her eyes, and there was nothing she could do to stop it. Clara reached across the table, placing a reassuring hand over hers. "We'll figure this out together," she said softly. But even as they spoke, neither woman noticed the shadow moving outside the cafe window, or the camera lens pointed directly at them. As they parted ways later that night, Evelyn received another text. This time, it wasn't from Grace. The message read, "You shouldn't have trusted her." Confused, Evelyn called Clara immediately. When Clara picked up, her voice was shaky. "It's Grace," she said. "She's gone missing." Before Evelyn could respond, a loud crash echoed through the line, followed by silence. "Clara?" Evelyn shouted into the phone. "Clara, are you there?" There was no answer. For weeks, Noah had been haunted by his reflection, or rather, what he thought was his reflection. It started innocently enough. Late at night, as he brushed his teeth or washed his face, he'd catch glimpses of himself in the mirror. But something felt off. Sometimes his reflection moved slightly out of sync with him. Other times, it lingered staring back even. After he turned away. At first, Noah dismissed it as exhaustion. He worked long hours as a freelance journalist, often burning the midnight oil to meet deadlines. His imagination was running wild. That had to be it. But then came the incident that shattered his denial. One evening, as he stood in front of the mirror adjusting his tie, he saw his reflection smirk slowly, deliberately, before raising a hand to wave. Noah froze, his heart pounding. His own hands were still gripping the edges of the sink. "Okay," he muttered aloud, backing away. "This isn't happening." Yet deep down, he knew it was. Something or someone was messing with him. And now it was personal. Determined to uncover the truth, Noah began researching strange occurrences involving mirrors and reflections. What he found online chilled him to the bone. Countless stories of people claiming their reflections acted independently, leading to paranoia, breakdowns, and worse. Most dismissed these accounts as urban legends or psychological phenomena. But one thread caught his attention, a Reddit post from a user named WatcherHunter72, who claimed to have documented similar cases linked to a network of stalkers operating across cities. Intrigued, Noah reached out to WatcherHunter72 via private message. To his surprise, the user responded almost immediately. "You're not crazy," the reply read. "What you're seeing is real. And you're not alone." WatcherHunter72 went on to explain that victims were targeted based on specific criteria: people who lived alone, worked late hours, or had access to sensitive information. Once identified, they became part of an elaborate game orchestrated by a shadowy figure known only as the Watcher. "But why me?" Noah asked, his fingers trembling over the keyboard. The response sent chills down his spine. "Because you've already been chosen." As Noah delved deeper into the mystery, he stumbled upon a name mentioned repeatedly in WatcherHunter72's posts. Clara. Intrigued, he searched for her online and discovered fragments of her story scattered across forums and news articles. Her case mirrored his own in eerie ways: hidden cameras, cryptic messages, and escalating threats. It wasn't hard to connect the dots. Someone was targeting them both, but Clara wasn't the only link. Another name kept surfacing: Evelyn, a corporate lawyer whose disappearance had recently made headlines. According to reports, Evelyn had vanished without a trace after meeting with a colleague suspected of involvement in stalking incidents. Noah realized he needed to talk to Clara if he wanted answers. Using the contact information provided by WatcherHunter72, he arranged a meeting at a secluded diner on the outskirts of town. When Clara arrived, she looked exhausted but alert. Dark circles framed her eyes, and her hands trembled as she clutched a cup of coffee. "Who are you?" she asked warily, glancing around the nearly empty room. "My name's Noah," he said, sliding a folder across the table. "I think we're being watched by the same person." Clara hesitated before opening the folder. Inside were screenshots of Watcher Hunter 72's posts, along with photos Noah had taken of his reflection behaving strangely. "This can't be real," Clara whispered, shaking her head. "It is," Noah insisted. "And if we don't figure out who's behind this, we'll end up like Evelyn." Together, Noah and Clara decided to lay low while piecing together clues. They rented a cabin in the woods, far from prying eyes, and spent days poring over evidence. Among the documents they uncovered was a list of names including Clara's, Evelyn's, and Noah's, each marked with cryptic notes about their progress. One entry stood out: Subject 3, Journalist, Weakness, Obsession with Truth. Trigger, Point reached. Noah's blood ran cold. Whoever was watching them knew exactly how to exploit his curiosity. Their breakthrough came when Clara remembered a detail from her ordeal: the video call showing another woman screaming for help. Though the feed had cut off abruptly, Clara recalled seeing a logo in the background, a symbol resembling an eye within a triangle. Noah recognized it immediately. It belonged to Obscura Tech, a surveillance company rumored to sell illegal spyware to the highest bidder. "We need to check them." "Out," Noah said, his voice firm, against better judgment. They drove to an abandoned warehouse listed as Obscura Tech's last known address. Inside, they found rows of monitors displaying live feeds from various locations, including their cabin. Someone had been watching them the entire time. Before they could react, a voice echoed through the warehouse. "Well done," it sneered. "You actually made it this far." They turned to see a figure step out of the shadows. It wasn't who they expected. It was Grace, Evelyn's missing colleague. "I didn't want any of this," Grace said, tears streaming down her face. "They threatened my family, forced me to help them gather intel." "Who's they?" Clara demanded, stepping forward. Grace shook her head. "You don't understand. You're dealing with something bigger than all of us." Suddenly, the lights flickered, plunging the warehouse into darkness. When they came back on, Grace was gone, and so were the monitors. Back at the cabin, Noah struggled to process everything. For years, he'd prided himself on his ability to uncover the truth, no matter how buried it seemed. But this felt impossible. How do we fight something we can't even see? Clara asked, breaking the silence. Noah sighed, running a hand through his hair. "We keep going. We find whoever's pulling the strings and expose them." But doubt gnawed at him. What if they were too late? What if the Watcher always stayed one step ahead? That night, as Noah sat alone in the living room reviewing footage from the warehouse, his laptop screen suddenly went black. A single line of text appeared: "You should have stayed out of this." Before he could react, the door burst open. Standing there was a hooded figure, holding a knife. Noah barely had time to react before the hooded figure lunged at him. Knife glinting in the dim light, instinct kicked in. He grabbed the nearest object, a heavy lamp, and swung it with all his might. The impact sent the intruders stumbling backward, but they recovered quickly, their movements eerily precise. "Clara!" Noah shouted, his voice raw with panic. Clara burst into the room, wielding a fireplace poker like a weapon. Together, they managed to drive the figure out of the cabin and into the darkness of the woods. But as they stood panting on the porch, adrenaline coursing through their veins, one thing was clear: they were no longer safe anywhere. The next morning, Clara and Noah sat huddled at the kitchen table, surrounded by maps, notes, and surveillance footage they'd salvaged from the warehouse. Sleep had been impossible after the attack. Every creak of the cabin walls made them jump. "We can't stay here," Clara said firmly, her hands trembling as she sipped her coffee. "Whoever's behind this knows exactly where we are." Noah nodded, though the thought of running again filled him with dread. We need backup. Someone who understands what we're dealing with. Clara hesitated before speaking. What about Evelyn? Is she still alive? Her voice trailed off, but the implication hung heavy in the air. Evelyn's disappearance remained a mystery, and the possibility that she was either dead or complicit weighed on both of them. Finally, Noah broke the silence. There's one person who might know something, Grace. Clara frowned. You think we can trust her? After everything she's done? I don't know, Noah admitted. But right now, she's our only lead. Using the last known address Grace had provided during their investigation, Noah and Clara tracked her down to a dingy motel on the outskirts of town. The room smelled of stale cigarettes and cheap perfume, and Grace looked worse than ever, gaunt, pale, and visibly shaken. You shouldn't have come here, Grace whispered as soon as she opened the door. They'll kill us all if they find out. Who's they? Clara demanded, stepping inside. Enough games, Grace. Tell us everything. Grace hesitated, glancing nervously toward the window as if expecting someone to appear. Finally, she spoke. It started with a job offer, she began, her voice barely audible. A private firm approached me, Obscura Tech. They promised big money, easy work. All I had to do was gather information on certain individuals. At first, I didn't question it. Then things escalated. What do you mean, escalated? Noah pressed. They started targeting people more aggressively, Grace explained. Hidden cameras, threats, even physical attacks. When I tried to back out, they threatened my family. Said they'd hurt everyone I cared about if I didn't cooperate. Clara exchanged a glance with Noah. Despite her anger, she couldn't help but feel a pang of sympathy for Grace. But why us? Clara asked finally. Why were we chosen? Grace shook her head. I don't know. That decision came from higher up, from someone called the architect. The architect? Noah echoed, his brow furrowing. Grace nodded. That's all I know. Whoever they are, they're pulling the strings. And they always win. As Grace finished speaking, a sudden noise startled them, a loud knock at the motel room door. No one's supposed to know I'm here, Grace whispered, her eyes wide with terror. Noah moved cautiously toward the door, peering through the peephole. Outside stood a man in a dark suit, holding a briefcase. His expression was calm, almost friendly, but there was something unsettling about his presence. Open the door, the man called, his voice smooth and commanding. We just want to talk. Before anyone could respond, Grace bolted for the bathroom, locking herself inside. Clara grabbed a chair and wedged it under the doorknob, while Noah frantically searched for another exit. The knocking grew louder, more insistent. Then, without warning, the door splintered open. The man stepped inside, flanked by two others in identical suits. Their faces were blank masks of professionalism, but their eyes betrayed a cold, calculating menace. Miss Thompson, the man said, addressing Clara. And Mr. Hayes, you've caused quite a stir. How do you know our names? Noah demanded. Stepping protectively in front of Clara, the man smirked, opening his briefcase. Inside was a stack of files, photos, transcripts, and detailed profiles of not just Clara and Noah, but dozens of others. You've been playing a dangerous game, he continued, but now it's time to end it. Without another word, he pulled out a small device and pressed a button. Instantly, the room was flooded with a blinding white light. When the light faded, Grace was gone. Back at the cabin, Clara and Noah struggled to make sense of what had happened. Grace's disappearance and the mysterious men in suits only deepened the mystery. This is insane, Clara muttered, pacing the room. How does anyone have this much power? Who are these people? Noah sank onto the couch, his head in his hands. For the first time since the nightmare began, he felt truly defeated. I don't know, he admitted. But whatever's going on, it's bigger than us. bigger than anything I've ever investigated. Clara stopped pacing and knelt beside him, placing a hand on his shoulder. "We're in this together," she said softly. "Whatever happens next, we face it as a team." Her words offered some comfort, but the weight of their situation loomed over them like a storm cloud. Later that night, as they reviewed the files taken from the motel, Clara noticed something odd. Among the documents was a photo of Noah, dated months before any of this began. In the background stood someone familiar, Evelyn. "Wait a second," Clara said, her voice sharp. "Did you know Evelyn before all this?" Noah frowned, studying the photo. "No, I swear I didn't. Why would she be in my past?" Clara hesitated, torn between suspicion and loyalty. What if she's part of this? What if she set us up? The accusation hung in the air, heavy and suffocating. Noah wanted to deny it to defend Evelyn, but doubt crept in. Had she been manipulating them all along? Before they could discuss it further, Clara's phone buzzed. It was a text from an unknown number. "She's closer than you think." Moments later, the cabin lights flickered and went out. Darkness enveloped them, broken only by the faint glow of their phones. "Noah," Clara whispered, her voice trembling. "Do you hear that?" From somewhere nearby came the sound of footsteps, slow, deliberate, and unmistakably close. Then, a voice cut through the silence. "Hello, Clara. Long time no see." It was Evelyn, but something about her tone, cold, detached, almost robotic, sent chills down their spines. Before either of them could react, Evelyn stepped into the light, revealing a gun in her hand. "You should have listened when you had the chance," she said, her lips curling into a cruel smile. The cabin was deathly silent, except for the sound of Evelyn's steady breathing as she leveled the gun at Clara and Noah. Her once familiar face now bore an expression they didn't recognize, cold, calculating, devoid of humanity. "Evelyn," Clara whispered, her voice shaking. "What are you doing? We thought you were gone." "I was gone," Evelyn replied, her tone clipped, "until I realized how close you two were getting to the truth. And trust me, you don't want to know the whole truth." Noah stepped forward, his hands raised in surrender. "Why are you working with them? What did they promise you?" Evelyn's eyes flickered with something regret. Anger, but it vanished as quickly as it appeared. "They didn't promise me anything," she snapped. "They took everything. From me, my freedom, my choices. But if I play along, maybe, just maybe, I can get some of it back." Clara's heart sank. This wasn't the Evelyn she remembered, the strong, composed lawyer who had vowed to fight for justice. This was someone broken, desperate, and dangerous. "You're making a mistake," Clara pleaded, tears welling in her eyes. "We can still stop this, together." Evelyn hesitated, her grip on the gun wavering slightly. For a moment, it seemed like she might lower it, but then the sound of approaching footsteps shattered the fragile tension. 3 figures emerged from the shadows outside the cabin, men in dark suits, their faces obscured by sunglasses despite the dim light. One of them spoke, his voice calm but commanding. "Enough games," he said, stepping inside. "It's time to finish this." Evelyn turned to face him, her resolve faltering. "You said you'd leave my family alone. And we will," the man replied smoothly. "Once you complete your task." Clara and Noah exchanged a glance, silently communicating their next move. They couldn't take on armed men head-on, but maybe they could outsmart them. "Wait," Noah said, stepping forward. "If you let us go, we won't say a word about any of this. You'll never hear from us again." The man chuckled, a low, menacing sound. "Oh, I'm afraid that's not possible. You've seen too much." Before anyone could react, Evelyn suddenly swung the gun toward the intruders, firing a shot that grazed one of their shoulders. Chaos erupted. "Run!" Evelyn shouted, pushing Clara and Noah toward the back door. They bolted into the woods, branches whipping at their faces as they fled blindly through the darkness. Behind them, shouts echoed, followed by the unmistakable crack of gunfire. After what felt like hours, Clara and Noah collapsed behind a cluster of trees, gasping for air. "Where's Evelyn?" Clara asked, panic rising in her chest. Before Noah could answer, a rustling noise drew their attention. From the shadows emerged Evelyn, bloodied but alive. "I bought us some time," she panted, clutching her side where a bullet had grazed her. "But they'll find us soon." Clara helped her sit down, guilt and gratitude warring within her. "Why did you save us?" Evelyn managed a weak smile. "Because I'm tired of running. If I'm going down, I might as well do something right for once." Noah nodded, determination hardening his features. "Then let's end this, together." Using Evelyn's knowledge of Obscura Tech's operations, they devised a plan. Hidden deep in the woods was an old ranger station equipped with a radio transmitter. If they could reach it, they could broadcast evidence of Obscura Tech's crimes to the world. Reaching the ranger station was no easy feat. Every step felt like walking into a trap, every shadow a potential threat. When they finally arrived, exhaustion and fear had pushed them to their limits. Inside, Noah worked frantically to upload the files they'd gathered onto the transmitter. Clara kept watch, her heart pounding as she scanned the surrounding forest for signs of pursuit. "We're almost done," Noah muttered, sweat dripping from his brow. Suddenly, the door burst open. The suited men stormed in, weapons drawn. "It's over," one of them sneered. But before they could act, Evelyn stepped forward, holding up a small device, a detonator. "If you take another step, I'll blow this place sky high," she warned, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. "And trust me, you won't survive." The men froze, exchanging uncertain glances. "Do it," Clara urged softly, placing a hand on Evelyn's shoulder. With a final, resolute nod, Evelyn pressed the button. The explosion rocked the forest, sending flames shooting into the sky. When the dust settled, Clara, Noah, and Evelyn stood amidst the wreckage, battered but alive. The evidence had been transmitted. The world would soon know the truth about Obscura Tech and its sinister network. As dawn broke over the horizon, the three survivors sat in silence, processing everything they'd endured. "I'm sorry," Evelyn said finally, her voice breaking. "For everything." Clara shook her head, tears streaming down her face. "You saved us. That's what matters." Noah added, "We couldn't have done this without you." For the first time in months, Evelyn allowed herself to cry, not out of despair, but relief. Weeks later, the fallout from their broadcast made headlines worldwide. Obscura Tech was dismantled, its leaders arrested, and countless victims came forward to share their stories. Clara, Noah, and Evelyn went their separate ways, forever bonded by the horrors they'd faced together. Each found solace in rebuilding their lives, though scars remained both visible and invisible. In a quiet moment of reflection, Clara penned a letter to herself, capturing the essence of what she'd learned. Sometimes, losing everything is the only way to see who truly stands beside you and who you really are. Fear doesn't define us. Resilience does. And even in the darkest shadows, there's always a glimmer of hope waiting to guide us home. As she sealed the letter, she smiled faintly, knowing she'd emerged stronger, not because of the pain, but because of the people who refused to give up on her. And somewhere, deep in the woods, the ruins of the ranger station stood as a testament to their courage, a reminder that even in the face of unimaginable evil, humanity has the power to rise above. The end.